It's one thing to have faith, but it's another thing to actually move in that faith. Join me as I believe. Poet, mother, teacher. Why not believe together? Hey, this is your girl, Chantrice, and we are back with one of my devotionals. I'm kind of excited about this because this devotional spoke so much to me in my spirit. So I'm hoping that it does the same with you guys. And I'm not coming out of an actual devotion. I'm talking about my time reading in the Bible and reading with God. So today we're going to talk about King Solomon. And the whole purpose of this video is learning how to discern between two agendas, right? Learning how to discern between a good agenda and a bad agenda, or we'll say good and evil agenda. Trying and testing the motives, okay? So if you know King Solomon, he was called one of the wisest men in the Bible ever to live, right? And he had this episode where he asked God for wisdom. So before I tell you guys any more about it, I just want to read it, okay? And we're going to start at chapter 3. So it's 1 Kings 3. And we're going to go down probably all the way down to 10, but I'm probably going to take breaks. So it says, now Solomon made a treaty with Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and married Pharaoh's daughter. And then he brought her to the city of David until he had finished building his own house and the house of the Lord and the wall all around Jerusalem. Meanwhile, the people sacrificed at the high places because there was no house built for the name of the Lord until those days. And Solomon loved the Lord, walking in the statutes of his father's David, except that he sacrificed and burned incense at the high places. Now the king went to Gibeon to sacrifice there, for that was the great high place. Solomon offered 1,000 burnt offerings on that altar. At Gibeon, the Lord appeared to Solomon in a dream by night, and God said, ask, what shall I give you? And Solomon said, you have shown great mercy to your servant David, my father, because he walked before you in truth, in righteousness, and in uprightness of heart with you. You have continued this great kindness for him, and you have given him a son to sit on his throne as it is this day. Now, O Lord my God, you have made your servant king instead of my father's David, but I am a little child. I do not know how to go out or come in, and your servant is in the midst of your people, whom you have chosen a great people, too numerous to be numbered or counted. Therefore, give to your servant an understanding heart to judge your people, that I may discern between good and evil. For who is able to judge this great people of yours? So then 10 reads, the speech pleased the Lord that Solomon asked this thing. Then God said to him, because you have asked this thing and have not asked long life for yourself, nor have asked riches for yourself, nor have asked the life of your enemies, but have asked for yourself understanding to discern justice. Behold, I have done according to your words. See, I have given you a wise and understanding heart, so that there has not been anyone like you before you, nor shall any like you arise after you. And I have also given you what you have not asked, both riches and honor, so that there shall not be anyone like you among the kings all of your days. So if you walk in my ways to keep my statutes and my commandment, as your father David walked, then I will lengthen your days. Then Solomon awoke. So Solomon acts, right? Solomon asked for the ability to be able to discern between good and evil, right? So God said, because you've asked these things, I will give you great wisdom. And what I want to point out is a lot of times we think that wisdom is being smart, right? Being knowledgeable in books and just having a knowing of a certain subject, right? But here specifically, we see Solomon asks for the ability to discern between good and evil. God said, according to what you asked, I'm so pleased, I'm going to give you great wisdom. Wisdom is the ability to discern. Wisdom is the ability to be able to discern between good and evil, between two agendas. It doesn't matter how smart we are academically. It doesn't matter how much we know about a particular subject. If we don't know how to discern between good and evil, that knowledge is wasted. That knowledge will go to waste. Okay. we have to know how to discern between good and evil. And if we know how to discern between good and evil, that's going to place us into places that's going to allow us to use our knowledge. That's going to allow us to be able to build upon our knowledge. But we have to first know how to discern between good and evil. And I also want to point out too, like when Solomon asked for the ability to be able to discern, God gave it to him. But then Solomon woke up and he was tested. We think we pray for something or we ask God for something. And especially when we get that yes, it's like, yes, God gave it to us. But we have to be tested to see if we can carry what God has given to us. Solomon was tested for two reasons. One, to prove that God had given him what he asked for. But two, to also be able to prove the application of what was given to him. Okay. So if we go down into scripture, you guys can read because I don't want to take up much time, but it starts at verse 16. It says, now two women who were harlots came to the king and stood before him. And one woman said, oh, my lord, this woman and I dwell in the same house, and I gave birth while she was in the house. Then it happened the third day after I had given birth that this woman also gave birth, and we were together, no one with us in the house except the two of us in the house. And this woman's sons died in the night because she lay on him. So she arose in the middle of the night and took my son from my side while your maidservant slept, and laid him on her bosom, and laid her dead child on my bosom. And when I rose in the morning to nurse my son, there he was dead. But when I had examined him in the morning, indeed, he was not my son whom I had born. Okay, so this lady comes to Solomon and say, like, we both had a baby at the same time, basically. We were in the house by ourselves. Her baby died. She put her baby on my chest, etc., etc. What Solomon does in his infinite wisdom that God had given him, he said, all right, let's take the baby and we're going to split the baby in half. That way, both of y'all can have a baby or a piece of a baby. And the woman had told that the woman that went to Solomon with the case said, okay, fine. The other woman said, no, give this baby to her. Give this baby to her. She can have it. That's how Solomon was able to tell which baby was which. And this, let me break down the agenda. Okay. So no woman or no mother would want to watch their child be dead. So we'll sacrifice in any case, any possible way that we can for our child to have the best life, even if we understand that's not with us, right? That's the mother. That's a real mother, right? So now let's uncover these agendas. So one woman goes to Solomon and say, hey, her baby died. She took her baby and switched it with my baby. Solomon says, okay, let's split the baby in half. The woman that told said, okay, let's look at the agenda. Because Solomon asked for the wisdom to discern between good and evil. So if we're looking at the agenda, one woman had already lost her baby. So the evil agenda, if I can't have my baby, you can't have your baby. If my baby is dead, your baby needs to be dead. Or my baby is gone and I want a baby, so let me take yours. Let me lie and take your baby. That is the evil agenda, okay? The good agenda says, look, I'm a mother first before anything. My child comes before my own selfish wants, desires, or need. So if I need to give my child away to keep my child living, then that's what I'm going to do. Take my child and have it. That's the two agendas. That's the good agenda versus the evil agenda. And Solomon had the ability to discern between the two. And a lot of times, and what I want to point out about the agendas is the first lady that came to Solomon, looking at it on the surface, when you first hear about it, you're like, oh my God, no, this other lady did not take her baby. And we're feeling all kind of remorse for her because she was the one that came and told. She was the one that brought up the case. So we're like, oh my God, this woman lost her baby because somebody switched their baby out. Like, we're all for this lady. But discerning between good and evil requires us to look past the surface. And requires us to go beyond eye level. Because what we see, we will have so much remorse for this lady. We will not even take into consideration anything about the other lady. Because we got so much remorse for the other lady. We won't even take the time to look beneath the surface. But real wisdom requires us to look beneath the surface in order to determine or to discern between a good and evil agenda. We have to look at the spirit and not what we see on outside. And looking at the spirit requires us to look deeper. I think And Matthew, Jesus tell the disciple that you will know a tree by its fruit. In order for us to be able to determine what fruit came from what tree, we have to first determine what kind of tree it is. That requires us looking deep. For some of us who are not avid tree lovers or avid lovers of nature per se, we can't look at a tree and say, oh, that's an oak tree. No, we don't know that. We don't know it's an oak tree, right? But for somebody that's avid or avid tree lovers, they can look at an oak tree and say, yep, that's an oak tree. I can tell by the way it's made. I can tell by the way its stalk is thick, the way the branches branch off, whatever. We can't do that. It requires us looking beneath the surface. And the only reason an avid tree lover knows is because they've studied trees. So in order for us to be able to discern between the agenda of good and evil, we have to be honest, we have to stay in our word and stay grounded in our word and stay one with God. I also want to point out that even though Solomon was in error, God did not hold that against him because he didn't know any better, right? So him giving burnt offerings at the high places, his intentions were good. Even though he was ignorant in that area per se, his intentions and his heart and his motives were pure. So God honored that, right? But Solomon stayed before God. Solomon didn't have pride. Solomon put his pride to the side and basically just gave it to God straight. Look, I'm over people too many to number. I don't even know how to come in, how to go out. I need help. Lord, I need your help. Lord, I need your guidance. I need for you to guide me. I need for you to help me. And then he sacrificed. He sacrificed after he asked for the thing that he asked for, right? And so God honored that, but he was before God. He was before God. He knew the voice of God. He knew what God looked and sounded like. And that's where we have to get to a point or a place to be able to discern agenda, because things will come to us dressed up, looking good. We will see people amongst us worshiping, praying with us, yet their agendas are different. Yet they carry different agendas. We will be in our workplaces with people, seem like great people at work, yet their agenda is different. Their heart is different. Their motives are different, right? And so we have to be like Solomon. And we have to remember that true wisdom is digging deep. True wisdom is discerning between two agendas. And it wasn't so much the person per se that Solomon was dealing with. It was the agendas that was controlling the people that Solomon was dealing with. So we have to be mindful of that too, because we'll look at people and we'll categorize people with the agenda that they're carrying. And let me tell you what, at any given time, anybody can be used. Anybody can be used. Anybody can be used for good. Anybody can be used for evil at any given time if we are not aware. And it does not necessarily, in most cases, mean that we can tie that agenda with that person, because sometimes a lot of people are used unknowingly. And so we have to be careful. So it wasn't necessarily the people that Solomon was dealing with. It was the agenda that was driving the people that he had to master and he had to deal with. That spoke volumes to me. And it also helps us to be able to discern between a God thing or distractions, because distractions come and they look good. They look real, real good. And just because it's good doesn't mean it's God. And so discerning between two agendas allows us to also discern distractions in our life as well. And we know a distraction if it keeps us busy, too busy, right? We don't want to be like Martha. We want to be more like Mary. If it keeps us too busy, and if it keeps us and pushes us further away from the things of God, and that's how you tell a distraction, because a distraction a lot of times is very, very good. But where does this thing put my heart? Is this thing putting my heart further away from the things of God? Is this thing putting my hands further away from the things of God? Is this thing tying up time in which I could be spending in worship, prayer, or reading my word? That's how we determine a distraction. That's how we determine whether or not it's a God thing or just a good thing. And good doesn't always mean God. So we have to be very, very careful in that. That is my time. If you have not already done so, please like and subscribe. Hit the button below. Please, please, please like and subscribe. If you think that this content was awesome, go ahead and share it with somebody else. Send it out, share it. Again, I do want to remind you guys that this is a lifestyle channel. So even though I've been doing devotionals, there is more to come. Whatever I learn, whatever I figure out or do or learn how to do, I am going to bring it to you guys, just to be able to share with you guys as well. That is my time. Remember, love with your whole heart, because I love you.